We are finally trying Le Mans Ultimate for the very first time. After the most recent DLC pack and game update, this sim is finally starting to look like something worth putting my time into. So in these first two online races of LMU, I certainly got the complete experience of the sim in beginner series, and there were a lot of positive takeaways to note from my first go at it. So stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to dive into some really positive things that I took away from this race, and specifically for those players who are already playing Le Mans Ultimate, I have a specific question that I'd like to get your feedback on as well. But let's not waste more time. Here is my first experience online with Le Mans Ultimate. Right, it's time to head out of the garage and into my first ever online race qualifying session in Le Mans Ultimate. We're going to come through to finish off our first flying lap here, and this is approximately the fourth flying lap I have had around Fuji International Speedway, the no chicane variant of the circuit. I'd done a couple of community races earlier in the week on Le Mans Ultimate in the Mustang here, but not on this track, so I had a bit of an idea of the car, but not necessarily this circuit itself. Now I've gone through to set a 137.945 in my first flying lap, and surprisingly a half second up on the next best driver in this field. I'm going to come around turn number 1, and you can see on the delta there we are a little bit down out of turn 1. Unfortunately, I had placed my camera in the wrong part of the screen for the recording here, so I'm covering up the lap time. We'll get that fixed for the next time around, so apologies for that. But you can see on the main screen there, the dash, we have got the delta there a little bit down through the first part of this second flying lap. Down through turn number 6 here, first gear and out the other side. I was really enjoying this Mustang and the fixed setup that we are using for this race. You had to be a bit more patient with the car to make sure it would rotate through the corners, but overall it was a nice driving experience. Through turn number 10, missing the chicane there, which is turns 11 and 12, and coming up to this tricky final sector here, turn 13 here, and up to turn 15 and 16, the final corner. Really awkward, late over the crest apex on these two corners, and again you have to be very, very patient with these cars in these setups. Same with this final turn here, trying to brake and get the car wide, swing it in, late apex, don't get it right on that lap, a little bit too early on the throttle, and we are going to lose what was a 3/10 advantage as we come up to the line. It's still going to make a small improvement though, and it's going to put us on pole position for this race, my first ever in Le Mans Ultimate. Now obviously we are in a lower split category for this race. I've not done any races, so I'm just on the baseline driver rating and safety rating, so it's a good indication that I'm a little bit better than baseline on this game so far, but we need to actually put a whole race together, and that could be a trickier thing. Now we're going to talk about the start procedure here. It's the first time I've gone off pole position, and it's a pretty straightforward process in pole. You just hold your 60k an hour and wait for the green light. I'd certainly struggled with this procedure in the community races, picking up drive-throughs each time, so I was really hoping that that was not going to be the case in the few races starting online. Again, the green light, and it's not a great jump from me. Initially behind the Ferrari, gets a little bit of a gain, and I'm sort of looking on the outside here at that McLaren, which in fact did pick up a drive-through from his start procedure. We're going to brake nice and early for this corner, a bit too early however, and immediately the Ferrari throws it up the inside into a gap that I'd left there, so he goes through to take the lead, and I come away in P2 with the Mustang directly behind me as we head up to turn number 3. Now he immediately brakes himself and goes wide at turn 3, so we've instantly got a gap behind, and I can be all eyes forward on this Ferrari. Tricky, this complex here, turn 5, and it was something I was going to have to work on through the whole race. Down to turn number 6, which was a good corner for me. Ferrari running a bit wide there, and we're on the power nice and early, directly behind, and this will be the battle that we have for the opening part of this race. Now for the most part I was pretty confident that I'd be able to get around this Ferrari at some point based on my qualifying pace, but still going over the course of a 20-minute race, I wasn't sure exactly how the Ferrari would react versus the Mustang. Coming through the final sector though, and the Ferrari's got a little bit of an advantage here. I'm overdriving the car a tiny bit on the colder tyres, they're beginning to warm up now, and I don't get it right here through turns 15 and up to the final corner. Overall though, like I said during the qualifying lap, this car was really nice to drive. You just had to be a lot more patient than my time in ACC, which really works well with some big intensity in your driving, getting really early on the throttle, being really aggressive with the inputs. This was a little bit more gentle. In fact, I had actually upped the force feedback percentage quite significantly to get a bit more feel in this car. And there's a lot more comments on the force feedback to have another time. I'm not an expert on force feedback by any stretch of the imagination, so it was just about adapting to the very different feel of this game versus ACC. Now we're going to come into 15 minutes, 40 seconds to go now. You can see that Ferrari is holding a lead over me, and behind the Porsche, who's got up into P3, is there at 1.4 seconds behind as well. So I was starting to get to a groove with the car, and I was feeling like I really needed to start to push the pace, push the envelope a little bit, and try and get to the back of this Ferrari to put on a little bit more pressure. We go purple there on that lap, and that's going to give a good indication that I've got a little bit of extra speed. It was a good motivator for me. A 38.1 for the Ferrari in front, so not significantly faster, but certainly showing that I had a little bit more pace. And it was down here at turn number 6 that I had probably one of my biggest advantages. I could certainly get through and out of this corner significantly better, often closing a gap on that Ferrari each time. However, it was a tricky place to go down to turn 10 for a pass, and same through here. I was quite good out of turns 15, but not as good in turn 16. You see I sort of show the nose a little bit here, not intending to throw it up the inside, just to try and distract him a little bit, but unfortunately not going to work that time around, and a bad exit there. I lose the slipstream a little bit. Now we're going to come with 9 minutes and 30 seconds to go now, and I was starting to find my strengths and starting to exploit them. I was trying to get a lot better through turn 5 here, trying to be a bit more patient, try and get to that apex through 5 there, and we're going to come down to turn 6 now and get a much nicer run out of turn 6 than I had in the previous lap, and this will be one of my best chances so far to try and get a position here and take the lead of this race. You see I'm right under the rear wing here. I'd show the nose to the inside, he covers a bit, so I go back to the racing line, he outbrakes himself, runs a bit wide there at turn 10, and I can instantly drive up the inside and get on the brakes to hit the apex here of the turn 13. He comes up around to switch back, but unfortunately gets on the power too early, and he spins off into the barrier, and we take the lead now with a gap to that Porsche behind by a couple of seconds. Look at the replay here, see I'm looking to show the inside, immediately goes to the outside here, get the racing line on the throttle nice and early, and that's enough to get the overlap down into turn 13. You see the Ferrari, he tries to switch back, trying to take that outside line through turn 15 later, but just too early on the power and gets it spun into the barrier. I was really happy with this move, thought it was really good racing. He was defending nicely, he was driving nicely, and for a rookie class race first time out, this was a good indication that this game has some good racing to be had. You can see no touches or anything, he's just on the power a bit too early, trying to get on my outside for turn 15. Ambitious move anyway. So for the rest of this race, it's just a case of trying to learn something about the car, to learn something about the track, and try and extend the advantage that I have on the now second place Porsche behind. I was pretty confident that I would be able to keep it on track and finish off this race to get a victory, a first up victory in Le Mans Ultimate, and that is more or less how this one works out. What I was learning about the track though is that there was a very fine line between going too hard, and particularly as the tyres went away, you could start to feel how the car would want to understeer a bit more, and you just had to be patient. Patience was probably the word that I used the most with understanding how these fixed car setups work in Le Mans Ultimate, particularly with the Mustang, which is obviously understeery by nature, being a front engine car. And we're going to come through, this is obviously the final lap now, getting turn 1 a little bit nicer, braking and trying to get that car rotated through the apex. And I was actually really surprised at how well the Mustang did rotate in the mid corner when you weren't trying to get on the throttle too early. Just trying to learn. Every little single lap I was doing, just trying to learn something about this car, about how the game worked, how the force feedback felt, and that's all you can do with a new game, just trying to learn each time, and for the most part that was working out quite well. So around the final corner now to finish off this first Le Mans Ultimate race, and in a way it felt a lot like how my first race in ACC and LFM went, when I had really good pace versus the drivers around me. Unfortunately, in my ACC debut I made a big fuel error and was not able to capitalize on a result. However, an older and wiser sim racer I am now, and we did not make any of those errors, taking a comfortable 5.6 of second victory in this first Le Mans Ultimate race. But as I promised at the start of the video, I was going to have the full experience of Le Mans Ultimate Racing in the bronze safety rating class. We have gone up about 8 splits here, split 10 out of 30 for this on driver rating, where I was split 18 on the race prior, so some better drivers, and a race here at Sebring. Now I commend Le Mans Ultimate for this race on this week. It uses the two cars, the two GT3 cars that are available to users of the base game in Le Mans Ultimate, the Ford Mustang, which is the newest car to the game, and the McLaren. And I only own the base game, so to use a Trak and a combination of cars that all base users of this game have is a really good tactic, along with the fixed setups, to jump in and have a go. And that's what I was really excited about this particular week's racing, and really this race here was the one that enticed me to come onto the platform. Now, I've never watched racing at Sebring, I have never done laps here in any other game, and apart from a community race earlier in the week here, I was still working this place out quite significantly. It's a tricky little track, it's bumpy, it's got some character, and it is a lot of fun, but quite hard to get right every single lap. See, running a little bit wide there at turn 13 on this fast flying lap. And on the delta there, I'm a couple of tenths up with some time to find though. A 2:05.0 is my best lap so far on this one, and it's currently P8, 1.6 seconds away from the pace, so we've certainly got some faster drivers in this one. Down second gear through turn 16 onto the long back track. The last sector of this course I really enjoy, apart from this final turn here, really tricky. Lots of character, interesting line to take, and I was going to be working this one out all race long. But we're going to come down to that turn, you sort of throw it in, down to fourth gear, and we try and stop. There's a big bump right there, and that's the one that really makes you understeer. We almost collect that outside wall as a result, and what was half a second up turns only to a couple of tenths, 2.5 tenths better this lap. A 2:04.8 second lap, and that's good enough for P5, but we quickly drop down to position number 9, which is mid-pack. It's directly in the middle of this 19 car field, and we are going to be in the thick of it. That 2.5 tenths would have put me up about 3 or 4 positions, so it's a bit of a shame to lose that on the line. Time for the race start now, and this is a better indicator of what it's like to do these Le Mans starts. Now it's telling me to catch up, but there's a car sort of in the space that I want to be in, and where I was struggling with my community races was probably pushing the red box, pushing the limits of where the car could be for those starts, and that's where I picked up those drive-throughs. So I was just trying to have nothing showing on the ground, which for me sort of showed I was in the right place. It seemed that's how a lot of other people did it, and you certainly couldn't be trying to use the brakes to warm the tyres or anything like that. You just had to be really careful, being in the right position, directly following the car in front, and hopefully that was going to be enough to prevent a drive-through for this race. Holding the 60k an hour, waiting for the green light to push that speed limit button and get going. And we get that green light, no drive-through once again, so 2 from 2 in online racing. Hopefully that's a trend we can keep going in Le Mans Ultimate. Now we're down the inside here at turn number 1. We've got a Mustang on the outside, but a McLaren trying to squeeze in the middle of all of that, and that McLaren in fact has picked up a drive-through penalty, so it's a shame he's getting involved in such an aggressive way. Coming down to turn number 3 here, we go side by side with the Mustang, but he gets pushed across and we get taken out at turn number 3 there. We get up to turn 5, I try and get the car turned, but unfortunately it gets going straight for some reason. At the time I wasn't sure why, but we'll show that in a second. Lighting it up on the grass and going straight across track. Very fortunate not to collect anyone across the circuit there. So very scrappy first lap, and we're going to watch all these cars come by us down into the hairpin and fall back to position 19, the very back of this field, with now a lot of work to do for the rest of this race. Taking a look at that opening lap replay now, and we say down the inside here, almost 3 wide through turn 1, hugging that inside apex, but getting enough of a run out to go side by side with the McLaren there. We get to drive into a gap that's in front of us there, but the McLaren collects the yellow Mustang in front of him, and he then comes across track to collect me. It's really, really messy with the rejoin from the McLaren as well, and as we can see on the next clip here, the reason I am not able to make that next turn is the blue Mustang that was behind me more or less tries to drive through me through turns number 5 and just basically drives me off the circuit. Super lucky with the rejoin to not collect anyone. You can see here he gets on the power too early and he's just driving through me, pushes me off track, and lots of cars behind that get to a chance to miss me. Very fortunate there. It could have been a very big accident. Now we're going to skip ahead 16 minutes, 46 seconds to go in this race, and we've just been following here at the back of the train. And one of the first things I noticed here is, even though I'm right at the back, we have still got a very close field up in front of me. I think with the number of drivers that are doing this race, the number of splits is obviously quite significant, being 30 odd. So we get to have a nice close pack of drivers involved with the race here, and that's sort of been a nice little touch for Le Mans Ultimate. Big fields. They are obviously only running one race at a time, so if you jump on Le Mans Ultimate in this safety rating bracket, there's only one option every 45 minutes, and that allows for these big fields and not a lot of options or not a lot of choice. Even if you wanted to do the other race, for example, multiple times, you'd have to wait for this race to finish before then going back to Fuji Speedway. But we're getting a run down the back straight here on this Mustang. We decide we'll start getting involved with the battles up in front. Go down the inside into turn 17, the final turn. But unfortunately that bump, big understeer there, almost collecting the ball but running very, very wide. And that allows the Mustang to just drive up the inside again and claim that position. No harm, no foul. Good example of how not to pass into the final corner. Now we're coming up to turns 3, 4, 5 again on this lap, and this is a really, really tricky section of corners here. I was really struggling to get this one accurate and consistent each time, but we continue to follow here, and it's really nice actually to follow behind. Watch the pack in front. I think there's going to be some drama that unfolds. And here at 11 minutes and 17 seconds to go, that drama does start to unfold. The Mustang goes up the inside at turn number 1. The McLaren is too wide there on the turn also, so we come up the inside here. We're going to make a little touch as we come through the kink, and we're going to get it stopped here at turn number 3. Getting in front here in the nose, so round 4 and 5, making that position on that McLaren. Later in that lap, we've got the black Mustang running wide there at turn number 13. It's giving us a nice run. I look to the outside, but then dive back to the inside for turns 14 and over the curb quite aggressively there and into my favourite section of the course here, this last sector, turns 15 and 16, coming right over the curb here and then getting over the white line a little bit to open up the turn out of turn 16. Really important turn there to get on the power as nice and early as you can. And we're in the slipstream now of the yellow Mustang in front of us. The two Mustangs in front of him are starting to battle into the final turn, running each other very much to the inside. So we're going to see what unfolds here. Trying to just follow this yellow Mustang and see if there's any drama up in front. That blue Mustang's having to take a very tight line, so they're both very slow out here. And we have a spinner on the front straight, and the yellow Mustang moves across, almost pushing the blue Mustang into that spun car. Very aggressive move. Could have been a monstrous accident. We're coming at turn 1. I've got a big run on this blue Mustang, and everyone is very, very slow through turn 1. I'm having to check up quite a bit, and the run from the black Mustang behind, he starts to go straight up the inside, and we brake a little bit just to fall into line. However, we get a dive bomb from the McLaren behind. We've got to run wide to give him some space, get the nose in front cleanly, but then a monstrous dive bomb up turn number 5, collecting me, using me to stop for the corner, and drives through. A classic case of a low safety rating race with a silly dive bomb up into turn 5. Fortunately, in Le Mans Ultimate, it appears that these cars can take a bit of a whack without necessarily pushing each other off track. So that bit of door rubbing doesn't necessarily event in me spinning out or one of us being taken out of the race, fortunately. Now we're seeing that on the replay there. You see there's the initial move down the inside. We give each other space, which is nice, completely ahead at turn 4, and then that monstrous up the inside move into turn number 5, completely missing that inside apex. It's clearly a dive bomb, not the nicest move, but it's a little bit what I was expecting to see in Rookie, and the fact that it's taken one race and a half a race again to see it for the first time is actually a good sign, in my opinion, that for the majority of time this racing is really good. Now you see I completely outbrake myself into turn 13 there, completely on the brakes to avoid making contact with that blue Mustang. Apologies to that driver, and that black Mustang behind is now very much on my tail as we come into that final sector here. However, it's on the very next lap that in this sector my race comes undone a little bit. We're going through that turn 15-16 complex now, and we're getting a decent run into the final corner. The blue Mustang outbrakes himself a little bit, runs wide. I was committed to the exit of the corner, so it was quite hard to check up and make sure that I wasn't going to make contact on the very outside of the circuit there. Clear air in front of me now, and as we come down into the final corner here, that big bump puts a massive bit of understeer, and we finally go a bit wider and collect that outside wall. Now here it is on board. We have just seen that big bump right there. It just makes the car go straight momentarily, massive understeer, and we really hit the car hard on that barrier. In fact, in the race afterwards, it says just the contact with immovable is the result of some safety rating drop, which I found quite hilarious, and we are going to have some significant damage now to the front left corner of this Mustang. We go wide at turn 1 to allow that blue Mustang through, and with a couple of laps left on the board, 4 seconds behind, I was just trying to drive this car around. You can see here, this is the onboard shot. That's how much the car is left hand down for these last 2 laps. It was a bit of a handful to drive around. Now that next lap, the Mustang actually goes wide and actually spins out at the hairpin, so we do gain the position back to P14, and coming around here to finish, or start I should say, the last lap of this race, we are actually 2.5 seconds in front of that P15 position car. So we are going to try in a way to see if we can't hold on to this one. There's no indication I can see that I need to come in and repair the car. I know with some damage in Le Mans Ultimate it forces you to repair the car, so it's just a case of trying to get around here as fast as possible, which was certainly not easy. The car was very, very loose. Every right hand turn, the left hand tyre would start to really overheat. It would not want to turn right very well, and we are, however, holding on to this position in a way. Really struggling to see red on that tyre there, particularly through this second to last turn. Just want to try and get a good exit. You see so much understeer, but behind, the Mustang that was gaining actually goes on the grass and loses traction. So I have opened up a little buffer there, just over a second, as we come into this last turn, and a short run to the finish line. So I just wanted to get through this turn nicely, not run wide, because we'll certainly not be able to recover that. So we get the car stopped early, nice tight apex here. You can see that car is coming 0.8, 0.7, 0.6 seconds behind now, but we just short course to the finish line here and actually come away salvaging a P14 position despite the damage to this car. A very, very rough race all around, a bit more what I was expecting from rookie class racing, but overall still very fun, and we stay, as we said, holding on to P14 for that particular race. Oh dear. So from a first up win on LMU, followed up by being a bit beaten up in race number 2, I had a lot of fun in these 2 races, and it leads me to a couple of very positive things that I think Le Mans Ultimate is doing right now. First off, I really want to commend them for the daily race choice, particularly in the beginner series here. As I mentioned in the video, I only owned the base game, and having 2 of those LMGT3 cars now available to the base game user certainly opens up the possibility to jump in and get some good racing. Second thing is how nice those fixed setups are to drive. Yes, you have to be a lot more patient than what I'm used to in the likes of Assetto Corsa Competizione, but they are lovely to drive, and the use of the traction control just means you can have a lot of fun, and you don't need to be specifically dialed in to the physics of the game to get some decent lap times and ultimately drive close with other competitors on track. I think this is a really good move, particularly for beginner series, as it just takes all the complexity out of it and you can just race at a nice even playing field with all those other drivers around you. And thirdly, I think they're doing a great job in holding on to how they host their online races. I really enjoyed how we had really big fields for these races, over 30 splits and over 600 drivers. Now, of course, they are achieving that by only running one race at a time, so you are a little bit limited on options. But if the daily races are good, you don't mind going between the tracks for each 45 minutes, and it does mean you get a nice field closely stacked together with other drivers around your driver rating. For a growing sim, I think these are really good steps forward, particularly for us players who are just getting into the game. It allows you to have a good and fun experience, and definitely wanting to try more of the races in the coming weeks and months. And question for those players who are using Le Mans Ultimate already: what has been the very key thing that has brought you into this sim and is keeping you playing it? There's obviously lots of discussion at the moment about lots of players flooding into Le Mans Ultimate, so if you're already playing it, what was the key thing that got you hooked on this sim, and what are the things I should be looking out for if I'm trying to have a better experience in this sim as well? I hope you guys really enjoyed that first look at Le Mans Ultimate. I'll certainly be doing some more videos about this, as I really want to dive in and truly understand this sim, as I'm on a bit of a mission to understand the sim racing landscape this year. So this is one that I definitely have to go a little bit deeper in. But as always, race hard, stay positive out there, and we'll see you soon with some more sim racing videos. Cheers.